have to tell you that I think Hashem needs to do teshuva with me. This is Hashem has, unless he's going to throw us a bone somewhere. I'm not. I get. God's in charge. I'm not. I get it, but really, like, work with me here, right?
Well, I feel like it's been like a 6-month teshuva.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not just elbow, right? It's like ongoing.
It is ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay, so give me a second when this finishes. I've got 14 seconds. Yes.
Don't forget you're on number 1 and number 2.
So, yes, 1 and 2. Yes. Thank you for the reminder. Okay, so hold on. We are. Is that over? That is over. Hello there. Welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope that you're either listening live or watching live and having just a time that you can settle down and just kind of reflect and listen to what's going on. Take a deep breath maybe. Let's spend some time together. And I'm bringing that up because I have an amazing guest who I'm going to introduce in a few minutes, and she's reminded me that so much of our life is about what we attend to, what we pay attention to. And so just for a little bit of time, give yourself a break from the craziness of 2020 and just give yourself the gift of a little attention here. So, who am I? Oh, you got this by now, right? Dr. Elisa. I've got that weird background, geology, psychology, Jewish spirituality, and yes, the Crystal Ball Hour where I do live readings. Thank you for joining me here. I want to do a shout out to my amazing sponsor, veteranspride.org. You just heard a commercial for them. They make these amazing shadow boxes for veterans. It's such a gift for a veteran to receive the shadow box highlighting their experience. But they're a little expensive. And if you can go to veteranspride.org and just donate $1 or $5, because remember, this year our goal is for each of us to be a philanthropist at whatever level we can. So think about donating there. And then I'm also sponsoring my own show, this one and the Crystal Ball Hour. And I want to remind you that you can see these replays on my website, elisarobin.com. Robin is spelled with a Y, ELISAROBYN. And I'll put that in the Facebook site. I'm easy to find, right? So if you go to my website, I actually have a gift for you there. If you sign up for my website, you're going to get an email back with a free audio and a PDF on thriving as an empath in difficult times. They're both short, and they're both really very helpful. You'll also see my pricing. You'll also see how to get in touch with me. So many of you have asked for soul sessions in this difficult time, and that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. So yes, elisarobin.com. Also, just want you to know, so many of you have also told me you're loving my book. This is the first novel, The Way of the Well, which is a spiritual adventure romance. And I read you a little bit of it, a little of the sensuous part, on the Crystal Ball Hour, but I'm not going to take time to do that today. You can find it on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, wherever you buy books online. And the second book, which is not a sequel but will intersect with this book, is almost done. And that one has a partly vampire lover and an octopus in love with a horse, and just sort of very, very cool stuff going on. So all of that just to introduce me and to thank you again. We are, I have an amazing guest, I just want to let you know, and by now you realize the way I introduce guests is by telling you a little bit about what they've meant to me, how I discovered them. So I want you to know that every time I bring a guest on this show, it's not some random person. It's somebody whose work I love and I've appreciated, and someone who's influenced me. And this woman, Ariella, I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a minute, but I want to tell you that a while ago I had a session with her, not really a reading. It's almost like a shared dream session. I'm going to let her talk about how that worked. And much of what we did in that dream session I was writing about in my next novel. And when we had that session, my novel came alive around me. It was amazing. And so she transformed my writing and made me realize that I was writing something about who I was from the past, what lineage wounds I was bringing and healing, and how part of my life goal was to help heal lineage wounds for others. So, Ariella, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. It's just so wonderful to be here, and also we've had so many conversations. I think this is just another conversation, so I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. So I gave you that kind of brief introduction, my experience of you. I'd love for you to talk, just sort of start with, because remember, my tagline is inspiring a renaissance of spirit, and you do that in others. So can you just kind of talk about your journey and your experience getting to where you are now?
Sure. So first off, I'll just kind of introduce who I am and what I do, and then I'll go into a little bit of my story.
Perfect.
I have been married to 21 years to my soulmate, Baruch Halevi, and we have always had this dream of creating a center, a spiritual center. And this dream has come true, and it is called SoulCentered, and we are just so thrilled to be inspiring other people. SoulCentered is a center, a spiritual center for individuals that are seeking meaning and purpose and healing in what Carl Jung called the afternoon of life, right? Midlife and beyond.
Nice.
And SoulCentered really is here to, we were in person and now we are ultimately online forever, I think.
I think so.
Who knows how long. So our mission really is to empower our clients and our community to consciously create new goals and implement new tools and to discover their innate healing wisdom and live wholeheartedly in the afternoon of life. Because the afternoon of life, which I'm sure we will discuss, is just sometimes such a roller coaster. And it is a specific time of life where it's ripe with wisdom and learning, and I call it unleashing your soul.
Oh, lovely. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, but specifically I work with women to reawaken a deep connection to their soul, to discover their spirit, and to heal and to transform and to really feel empowered in their lives. So that really, I find the afternoon of life is really the time where women say, I've had enough of doing life a certain way, and men do this as well. Yes. We get to this point where we say, that's it, no more. And we only have this life to live, and life is short, and we want to move forward empowered, healed, and to feel whole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you're watching me here, I am pulling up our Facebook sites because we are not only live radio, we are also live on Facebook. And I just want to say to the audience, if you have questions, not for a reading, but just questions or comments, please feel free to go to the Dr. Lisa Show or Henry Archuleta or KUHS Denver on Facebook, and I'm also trying to monitor those. Okay, so sorry, I sort of got up there. So thank you for that introduction. Can you talk just a little more about Soulwork? Can you sort of or just take us down your path of how you like to work with people?
Sure. So the main thing I do is that I utilize energy healing, intuitive guidance, very deep emotional visualizations, very deep healing visualizations, soul retrieval work. I do a lot of, we have something in common. I do a lot of intergenerational trauma, healing that lineage that we get passed down, unconscious and conscious beliefs and physical issues and emotional issues, And sometimes we don't believe that they are ours. And you know what? Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are just things that have been passed down. So what I do is that I've created a program, and it's about empowering yourself to live your best life. And I would say like my superpower is that I use my intuition and with the help of the guides that I work with to intuitively see your healing path. So I can see physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and sometimes I do past life and also this ancestral trauma healing. I can see the pathways that are blocked, and I take you on a journey inside of your soul and your body and your spirit to help you remember that you are already whole. So it's almost like I think of, if you go into a garden and there's so many weeds because you haven't pulled the weeds in a long time and you can't find the flowers, right? And you're just searching and searching and you know that it's in there, but you can't find it. So what I do is I help you pull the weeds. We go through it and we uncover your subconscious beliefs that are holding you back. We uncover the emotions that are stuck in your body that are causing most likely physical symptoms that are, I always say that your emotions don't cause the symptoms, but there's always energy and a story behind your physical symptoms.
Lovely.
And so we uncover those weeds. And then what you find is like this beautiful diamond. And that diamond is your soul. It's your divine wisdom that we all have, no matter what you've been through in life. We all have this innate wisdom, and that is your soul. And so I'm just here to help you weed, right? I just help you just kind of get through it and find what's so beautiful about you.
I love everything you just said, and I think that most of the people listening can resonate to the way that we do lose ourselves, who are our true self, somewhere in the weeds, and that we're always looking outward for guidance and information. And I love that notion that guru or that sacred wisdom or whatever, we came here with that, right? I mean, we were born with that. So is part of your work, and I experienced your work and I love it, but is part of your work helping us learn to listen better? Would you say part of it?
Yes, I think that everybody has the ability to be intuitive. Everybody has the ability to be psychic. Everybody has the ability to tap into the deeper wisdom of your soul. We just forgot how to be, the truth is that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience here in life, right? And many of us forget, and especially in the morning of life, which is pre-midlife.
Okay.
The morning of life is all about building. You're building, in adolescence, you're building yourself into an adult. In adulthood, early adulthood, you're building into your identity. In maybe your early 30s, you're building a family, you're building your career, you're building your identity. And then when we hit the afternoon of life, and those are rough, the ages are rough terms.
Sure.
But when we hit the afternoon of life, we have the ability to, in some cases, or eventually slow down and recognize and remember that we are not just what we see, right? You are not just your fingers and your legs and your arms and your hands. You are a spirit having a physical experience, and your body is your home for your soul. And then if we can switch it and we can see life in that way, then it's like a light bulb turns on, and we can see life in a different way. We can see it through more of a spiritual soul lens, and I'm here to guide you through that so that you can heal what's happened to you in the afternoon of life, or what's happened to you in a past life, or what's happened to you through ancestral lineage traumas and wounds. I always feel like the afternoon of life also is just, Brene Brown says it so perfectly. She says, and I'll paraphrase it, of course, she says, a life is always tapping you on the shoulder. But when you hit your midlife, that if you haven't listened yet, life is going to, it's almost like you know, this wisdom or
whack,
this
whack.
message just knocks you down.
Right, absolutely.
I've had quite a few of those.
I know, I'm sure you have.
And it's an awakening. It is, if we choose it to be an awakening.
Okay, so you said so many amazing things, and I have so many questions I could ask you. What I'd love is, can you back up a little bit? Because I can just sort of imagine our listeners going, wow, she was probably born a mystic and is totally different than me. You know, could you talk a little bit about how you got to this point? And I want to just assure our listeners, I have experienced your work, and it is profound. And not anything I've experienced with anybody else. So I don't know if you discovered it, it came to you. Can you just talk a little bit about your pathway?
Sure. So, you know, I won't go too deeply into my childhood story, but I think it's important to say that I always felt that there was something missing inside of me, that I grew up and I was searching for something that I couldn't put a name to it, but I always looked around thinking, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Like, I just couldn't find myself. Mm-hmm. And then a rupture, a divorce in my family just enhanced this feeling of something's missing inside of me, and it became, you know, I think I filled it with unworthiness. And, you know, there was this hole, and I was always empathic and sensitive as a child. I had a very deep connection to animals. Deep connection to nature. I always felt, but I didn't have the words for it, that I was intuitive and sensitive and empathic. Now, looking back, I see that I was. But as I got older, I experienced deep insecurities. I had body dysmorphia for years.
Wow.
I was just, it was like, I mean, ultimately what I was missing was my soul. You know, I didn't know that I was missing it, but it was like I was longing to go home, and I couldn't find that home because I didn't realize it was right inside of me. Right. So as I grew, I married when I was in my my late 20s. I have 4 beautiful children. I was the Jewish educator and rabbi's wife for 17-something years in large Jewish congregations for many years. I led women's group. I was doing healings, readings, and yoga, and there was still a hole.
Right.
And in my very early 40s, my mother was diagnosed with a rare cancer. And subsequently, following my 4th child, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition and thyroid disease.
Wow.
So what it was this awakening. It was what some people call midlife crisis. I called it an awakening.
Right.
It was this turning point for me where I had to realize that I can go down 2 paths here, and I have a choice. I can go down the path of why me, why my mom, why is life handing me these things? I can go down that path, or I can go down this path of I've been handed these things so I can heal. I can feel my emotions. I can work with my body, or I can work against my body.
Right.
I can work with my grief, or I can let it overtake me.
Absolutely.
And so about 5 years after that, I had another deep awakening, and my mother was dying of cancer. She passed away, and about 3 months before she passed away, my stepfather died in his sleep suddenly.
Oh my gosh.
And about 1 month before that, my real father had a heart attack.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, so why I say that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
So much, so close together. Yes.
I want people to know that, I say this because I believe we are all wounded healers, and we heal and we teach what we need to learn the most.
Yes.
And I have had many midlife awakenings, and I believe that we are able to, even when we experience the hardest things in life, we are still able to use that spirit inside of us and to gather ourselves and to choose life. And that's really what I did. And the more I chose me, the more my intuitive gifts grew.
Okay, interesting. Wow. Wow. amazing story, and I'm sure it resonates with a whole bunch of people listening. I have to say, one of the things I love is that you're talking about these events that were so difficult, right, and so stressful, and so filled you with so much grief, as a time of awakening. That and that notion that we do have those two paths, right? I can choose why me in the negative, right, and stay there, or I can say, I have an option here. I have a choice. Here's what's handed me, and now what does it unveil in me? What does it reveal in me? How do I go inward and experience this in a different way? Is that in alignment? Am I understanding you correctly?
Absolutely. I think that life is always going to, I mean, look at the life we're in right now.
Look at 2020. I know. I'm still waiting for the Kraken to show up, I'm pretty sure.
Right. I mean, so 2020 is an example or a mirror of what a lot of us have gone through in our lives. So 2020, a pandemic, let's say, is just a bigger reflection of what we've all struggled with. We have all gone through or will go through grief.
Yes.
We have all gone through or will go through some sort of shattering.
Yes.
And what I believe in and what I teach my clients and the people that I speak with is that you can choose this opportunity as to take it as things happening to you and life happening to you, or you can take hold of it and say that this is not fun. It's not fun to be in pandemic. It's not fun to be in grief or to be inside of an illness.
That's right.
Or anything else that you're experiencing. But it's a conscious choice to choose light and to choose life. And I think what I excuse me, what I came to from that childhood experience was that there is a spirit inside of us that will help us through. And when we use that, some call it God, some call it the divine feminine, your spirit, the universe, whatever you call it. When we understand and experience the universe inside of us, then it can give us the strength to get through what happens in life, because life is always going to be life.
Life is always, yes, and it's always going to be messy. I had somebody say that to me the other day, and that when we're in a birth process, we're rebirthing ourselves in some way, birth is always messy. And so I had somebody say to me, isn't life supposed to be easy? And I said, I don't know where you got that one from. And if my life was always easy, if everything in front of me opened without a care, without effort, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't, that I am in part who I am because of the grief and the struggles and the having to redefine myself in terms of life in front of me. Like, what is it I do? I have to say that it's so interesting because you and I speak such a similar language, and I'm reminded of Viktor Frankl, that whatever situation you're in, you always have the choice of who you are, of what you will do. And he wrote that from the pit of the worst place on the planet, right? He was in 3 different concentration camps, so I'm not sure if that one was Auschwitz or Dachau, but he was in a concentration camp, and he found that part of himself. So sometimes I think, what am I complaining about? Right? That piece is inside me.
There's also an author, her name is Edith Edgar. She wrote The Choice, right? Is that the name of the book?
I think it's close. Yes. I can't Google it right now, but I think so.
She's also a Holocaust survivor, and what she takes is the idea of Viktor Frankl, this choose life, that nothing outside of you can hurt your spirit and your soul. And she takes it a step further, and she talks about this idea, and I do a lot of this in my work, is that when we run from the things that hurt us, from life's events, from emotional turmoil and traumas, when we run from our wounds, they catch up to us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And they usually do in midlife.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? It's like what we run from chases us.
Yeah.
Right? If you've ever raised a puppy, right, you know this. Run away, it will chase you. And it will catch you. So that
Right.
I love that sort of metaphor. You work a great deal in metaphor when you're working with women, right?
I do. I really feel that one of my my gifts is that I'm able to. I see pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and I will say, like, this took a lot of years of being very vulnerable and truthful about. Once I chose life, and
Right.
once I chose to deal with these awakenings that I was having.
Mm-hmm.
And work with the spirit and my soul inside of me, and work with emotional wounds,
Mm-hmm.
I was then able to take it out to my clients in the world and be very vulnerable and say that, sometimes spirit comes to you in different ways.
Uh-huh.
If you've ever felt like you weren't intuitive, then just imagine opening your intuitive eyes
Right.
to the gifts that we are given every single day. I speak in metaphors because I see things in metaphors. I see things in stories.
Okay.
I can see pictures of things that have happened to people in either past lives, or I can see. I have my master's in social work, so I'm all about the story and the psychological.
Right.
And so I blend that with my intuitive gifts, and I end up seeing pictures and history to help you fill in the blanks or to create meaning for your story, for your personal story. And this ends up helping you find great healing, because some things don't make sense to us. I had a client that could not figure out why she felt that she was sexually abused. We did a lot of visualization work. We did a lot of almost hypnosis, and she just still had no memory until what came out was that her mother was sexually abused and never talked about it until the daughter found her mother's journals and just had the confirmation of it.
Wow.
But that psychological damage was passed down.
So that's like a lineage wound, which is my language, right? But that sort of, some people might think of it as epigenetics, right? That the trauma's in our body, which you talk about a lot, and then it's passed down, and definitely we can see that in many groups, in many cultures. Epigenetics can work in lovely ways, but we can also see those lineage wounds. Just a quick break here. If you are just joining me, you are listening to the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, The Stream. My guest is the amazing Ariella Haleve, and you can find her, I hope I say this right, at her website is mysoulcentered.org. So www, right, mysoulcentered.org, and you can find out all about her there and what she does. And this is sort of, so thank you if you're just joining now for joining us in this amazing conversation. So I'm not sure where to go next because you're just so fascinating. We've talked about soul work, we've talked about lineage wounds, and so can we spend a little bit of time on that sort of afternoon of life, and then maybe talk about what you do, like because you talk a lot on your website about renewal and reawakening, all those RE words, right? Rediscover, renew, reawaken, reconnect. But let's talk about the afternoon of life, perhaps for women, but I also know that men have an experience of that too. What has your experience with women been about that?
So I often see women that feel like in the afternoon of life and midlife, well, I always start with this.
Okay.
We, as women, I'm sorry, men, but as women,
we'll get you guys. Okay.
We'll talk about you.
Yeah.
But for women, we all go through, most of us, go through hormonal changes. We go through perimenopause and menopause. So often during this time, we feel often like our body has betrayed us, You know, we wake up one day and suddenly we look different, we feel different, our clothes don't fit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I attribute it as, sometimes I describe it as like you feel like you're walking around in this world naked.
Right.
Your emotions, like it's you wear your emotions right on your sleeve or on your body, like just for the whole world to see.
Right.
Nothing can be held back. You can't even hold back if you tried.
Right.
And this can get you in a little trouble, but it's also it's very different for women to experience. No matter, you know, how much they love their bodies, we all go through changes inside of our bodies. Often women feel trapped in a body that they don't fully love and don't fully understand, and these are sometimes from old wounds, from just never really loving our bodies, and then hormones come up and we realize, wow, I really don't like the stage I'm in, and I didn't like it beforehand. Some of us feel lost in our relationship. This is male and female.
Yes.
You know, we struggle to find our voice and to feel worthy. And I find that in the midlife of the afternoon of life, women and men are really ready to become more authentic. Yes. And no matter how much we try to not be authentic, you know, there's so many things and so many ways we can run. But ultimately, a lot of us are searching for authenticity and a deeper connection to ourselves, to our community, to the world. We just want to know that there's more out there than what we've been doing and experiencing.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, go ahead. Do you want to say?
Well, I mean, I'm just sort of reflecting because yes, I agree with everything you said, and I think what happens is a lot of women, they get sucked into extreme exercise programs, and I know that I was sort of extremely exercising for a while, or extreme diet, or extreme like we want, and then the image in the modern U.S. at least, right, is that beauty is what like a 15-year-old girl looks like, or a 19-year-old girl looks like, and that what we're then trying to do is rediscover our own beauty. But like you said, if we never honored and respected it before, it's hard to rediscover something we weren't in contact with before.
Exactly.
Right? So I mean, I'm just going to add this, that one of the things I've discovered about myself is I'm in some ways more sensual than I was when I was a full-time academic dean. And I've said that on the show, like there's just ways you have to act as an academic dean, and you know, turquoise streaks in your hair, which should be back in by the end of the week, or purple streaks, whatever I had, and dressing a little more sensually. That didn't work in my world of academia. And now in this afternoon time that you're talking about, I'm like dancing to, you know, to blues music, you know, to tango music in my loft by myself, and rediscovering that. So is that part of what you help women do? And can you talk about that?
Sure. So what you described is taking off a mask. You know, first of all, we all wear different masks, we all have different roles, different identities for different times in our lives.
Okay.
You know, so maybe for some of us, our morning of life looked like mother, right? For me, I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, and I just did my work a little bit on the side here and there. And then as I got older, I had to redefine my role, right? And so your role as a dean was your mask. It may have been your true mask at the time, but now maybe you're finding as you shift into an interesting, like a more interesting stage in your life, that maybe that is something you needed to shed in order to really find your passion and your sensuality and who you really are. So for sure, it's a mask that we wear, and some of the masks are, as I said, real, and just what we had to go through at the time, and others are those masks that I see them as expectations that our family, our world, society, social media has said, you must look like this, you must be like this, this is what we need to do and look like, and then midlife comes around, and you know, your world blows up, divorce, loss, life happens,
Yes.
or pandemic happens,
Absolutely.
and all of a sudden it's like you throw it off. And that's what I help with, is like, how do you throw off the expectations that you've lived with for so long?
Mhm.
How do you shed those without burning up your whole life?
Right. I think
It's
that's
not easy.
it's not easy, and I think I love that I love how you talk in metaphors. I just have to say that again. But I do love that image of we may choose to wear a mask. So I actually chose to wear the mask of an academic dean because my goal was financial security. And I chose to wear that mask. And I always knew it was a mask. And, my joke really is that when I showed up one day with purple streaks in my hair, that was my first indication that mask was cracking. And I was not going to be able to wear it for much longer. Probably taking tango lessons was another indication that something was shifting in my life, right? So I love that. I love that image. So you help us with our mask, right? You help us rediscover our soul. Do you want to? I don't know. And then we awaken it. We have these awakenings. We have. Is your next step sort of like renewal, reconnection? Where do you go when I find that diamond?
So we go on this soul journey together.
Okay.
And we work together for a period of time. And what we do is we do two things. So I help you return to your soul. So returning to your soul wisdom means, how do we navigate the twists and turns? So the way that we, you're right, I have a lot of reads on my,
which I love. I think it's great. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I'll do is I'm going to go through the journey that I take with people.
Wonderful.
And then I'm going to tell you exactly how I do it, because
awesome.
I feel like it's really unique.
Awesome. I'm so excited. Yes.
Okay. So the first step is really returning to your soul. So what is the roadmap that you specifically need to take to navigate your personal life's twists and turns? So we open you to your journey. So we look at your, so much of the work that I do has to do with our thoughts, beliefs, and how those thoughts and beliefs were formed, and now how they take action in your life, how you experience the world through your thoughts and beliefs. So we go in and we realign and kind of, I do a lot of shadow work. Shadow work is just basically looking at old beliefs, old thoughts, and the deepest parts of us that scare us. And basically they look like monsters,
right,
and we make them kittens.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
And so that's part of returning to your soul, is like it's moving the weeds of unconscious and old beliefs. And then you begin to rediscover your soul. And as you rediscover this inner freedom, you have, I do a lot of work with the chakras, which are energy systems. So if you think about someone who is so stuck in their throat and they hold all of this, someone who has thyroid issues or throat issues, or someone that feels like they can't speak their truth, probably has a lot of unconscious beliefs in there. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Someone told me down the line that I couldn't really speak up for myself. So what we would do is realign that chakra with a new belief and help you find more of an empowered voice.
Nice.
It's about shifting your choices. It's about shifting your energy and aligning your actions with your life purpose.
Okay.
So it's like this journey that we go through.
Right.
And then we reawaken your soul. So we rediscovered it, but now we have to make it alive.
Right.
We have to bring it into our world. So we reawaken it and experience more freedom inside of our physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies by looking at trapped emotions. This is a very big part of what we work with. Okay. Everybody stores we all store our emotions in our bodies. It's so fun to turn on the light bulb. It's with myself and with other people. I always say, where do you think the emotions go when you're not feeling it? It doesn't go out there.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
It's somewhere in here.
Right.
Like if I asked you, where do you hold your emotions in your body? Like if you could think of one emotion, where would it be and where would
Probably my solar plexus, stomach chakra, in that area, right? I mean, stress might be my shoulders, but really emotions are deeper. They go much deeper in me.
They do. And for someone who doesn't always, not you, but for all of us, we don't always know how to feel that emotion.
Right.
So what happens is, if you know that your stomach is a portal for where your emotions go,
right,
eventually you could have some, like I have digestive issues,
right,
and I've had them off and on over the years because I wasn't able to feel my emotions. And when I felt them, my digestion was able to calm down and be more at ease. So what I do is I help you go in there and repair and nurture and feel your emotions to feel like you are more free. It's taking those weeds out, one by one.
Which is, I think, a fascinating notion probably for so many people listening, that, and especially women, right? Men can be a little more like package things, right? Which just means they package it and push it in somewhere else. But for women, we've always, especially in the professional world, I've been told I'm too passionate. In incredibly inappropriate situations, I was told I was too passionate, and not emotional, right? But we're taught to not show emotion, taught to don't cry, don't, all of those things, and they do get shoved down. And I think, especially for women, but I'm sure it's true for men, that when they finally show up, they can explode out of us. So like you said, we can have a physical issue, right? It's one of the reasons I think sometimes some men, when they retire, they have a heart attack. Not that all heart attacks are about emotional issues, but that men who retire and they shoved all their emotions forever, and they invested themselves in being a certain kind of importance. You take that importance away, and they don't know who they are, right? And it's like having a broken heart.
Right. It's so true. And I think even more with men, I think there's a lot of men that walk around very tightly wound with emotions that they are taught. I mean, that's part of the problem with our world, is that men are taught to not feel.
Yes.
They aren't taught. Women are, it's more acceptable for a woman to express her emotions than I think than a man. They're not given the education to express and release their emotions.
Right.
I was always told that I've been told many times that my boys are too sensitive. That my boys are too emotive, too sensitive, too empathic, and they need to toughen up and become men. And it's hard. That's a hard one for me, because my boys are more sophisticated emotionally than most men that are in their 50s and 60s. And it's just really important for me to educate my boys. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. That everybody in my family, it does make for a challenging family, but everybody in my family is entitled to feel and express their emotions. They aren't entitled to, hurt other people with them, but they are entitled and encouraged to feel their emotions. And I think that that's a really huge issue in our world, is that we don't know how. If you look at a baby, right? If you look at a baby, he or she, they scream and they cry when something's wrong, and then you fix it and they get through it, and they're laughing the next second.
Right.
And that's all an emotion is just energy that wants to get expressed out of our bodies.
Right. And I agree with you that I think what we're seeing with so much fear right now, without saying anything politically one side or the other, but sometimes I think the anger that we see in the world is unrecognized fear, that we're afraid. And it's hard to have conversations with somebody to say, look, I'm afraid of what you're saying. How do we have a conversation where your words don't make me so afraid? And how can you hear me in a way where I don't make you afraid? And if we could feel those and deal with those, we may not see as much anger as we do in the world. because I think that you're talking on a personal level, like a micro level, but on a macro level, we have, lots and lots of societal sort of givens, right, where that are, you don't get to feel that way, and this is how you express it.
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting. I want to just take a minute. We got about 10 or 15 minutes left here, but if you're tuning in, this is the Dr. Lisa Show, and you've missed 45 minutes of the amazing Ariel Haleve, but you'll be able to see it on a replay on my website. I want to let you know that you can get in touch with her at mysoulcentered.org and work with her one-on-one. Is there anything else, Ariel, about like how you work with people? Let me ask it differently if I can. You're unique in some way, so somebody can go to somebody for a reading. Here, let me help you with a past life reading. You're different. You don't do a reading, you do what you call a map. So you work with people on a long-term journey, as opposed to here's a tidbit of information, go off and figure it out. So did we cover most of that journey? Because that's really, I think, one of your superpowers and one of the places you're unique.
I think that we did cover it. I will say that part of this journey map that we go through is finding your spirit and discovering, again, what I said, what I felt that I lost in childhood. What is that you're not alone, and that my greatest serving to my clients and to the world is to educate people and help and guide them to realize that they are not alone. And the world is scary when we feel alone and isolated, especially in these times. And that part of the journey of the soul is to journey inside of you to recognize, and this is how we work together, is to cultivate this idea that whatever you call it, your soul, you can call it your dog, you can call it God, you can call it the universe, that something deeper is at play inside of your body.
Right.
And it's really important that we can all close our eyes and use our intuition, that we can all do energy healing, and that we can all trust and know that we are divine beings. And at the end of our sessions together, at the end of our work together, my clients realize that even though life happens outside of them, they have a map and a journey of their soul and a partner to do it with, and their partner is themselves. Their partner is their spirit. Right. And I like what you said, Elisa, because a lot of people go to, I myself, I love intuitive reading.
Right, I know.
Just want to go and get that quick fix and get that guidance. And so part of what I do is I really understand that. So part of what we do together is that I'm really a partner with people, and I give you lots and lots of tidbits and lots of messages from beyond, lots of messages from I can tap into past loved ones who've passed away, if that's part of our journey together, and guidance from your soul, guidance from your guides, messages that help you put your pieces of your puzzle together. Right. So not only do we do these healing visualizations that help you remove those weeds, we also do a lot of energy healing. I'm a Reiki master and a soul retrieval guide. And we do a lot of that, a lot of intuitive guidance and readings, if you will. I just don't always call it readings, but it's definitely reading.
Right, I know. The same way that I call mine sessions, because I might be using somebody's astrological chart, but I'm also channeling whatever guides come through. And it's not a one-off, right? It's not like, here's your chart, go off and have a nice day. It is like you. It is, I want to help you through this process. Come back to me in this next step, right? And our tools may be different, but I think our understanding of that, of people feeling alone. Can we do? I just want to come back a little bit, because I know we've already covered it, but the way that maybe we feel more alone in the afternoon of our life, even if we're in a relationship. I know that, and I think I told you this offline at some point, right? Maybe I said it here. you know, you've said, we look in the mirror and what do I see? I see wrinkles and I see older skin and I'm 65 and I'm like, wow. And I'm single and I want a sensuous and sexual life while I'm still here. And that wanting to know that people can see me as that other piece, and to do that I have to stop just seeing my wrinkles, right? But I wonder if that's part of the loneliness, is that we so much only see what we see in the mirror as opposed to seeing the rest of us. Does that make sense to you?
It does, very much so. That so we have, again, it comes down to choice, and
Okay.
it's about which glasses do we want to put on,
Okay.
right?
Right.
There are days that we are all, especially as women, but also men, we are going to go into that mirror and we're going to say, you know, I can't even look at all the wrinkles,
Look at it.
skin, and all the ways my body has changed.
Right.
And you know what? I think it's really scary because it brings us closer to death.
That's a great
Because
point.
it's scary. It's a scary thought to look in the mirror and say, "How did I get to this place?"
Right.
A minute ago, I was young and my skin was fine and shiny, and I had no wrinkles on my. I was just looking at my wrinkled hands last night.
Like, where did those come from?
Whose hands are these? But really, that is it's this scary notion when we hit the afternoon of life, is that we are closer to death than we are to birth.
Right.
But those are both portals and openings to more of life. And so the glasses that we put on can be, this is all there is to life, acquiring things, wearing fancy clothes, having, you know, the best of everything, which includes the best skin and the best body and the best everything. We can see it this way, but it's like fighting an uphill battle, because ultimately we will all pass away, but it doesn't have to be screeching and halting and kicking and screaming.
Right.
You can put different glasses on, and like you said, like you still but you want to be seen as that sensual,
Absolutely.
sexual, deep woman that you are. So if you put those glasses on, yes, you have your moments, but if you put those glasses on of, I am a spiritual being in the afternoon of life. I'm having a physical experience. It's my home for this life. And as I move through it, I intend and send out that manifesting energy and that abundance energy of attracting people in your life that see you for the way that you want to be seen.
Right.
You know, if we constantly are berating ourselves with those subconscious beliefs of, I'm no good and I'm not smart and I'm ugly and I'm wrinkled, then we're going to attract people that say, yeah, you are. And if we look inside of ourselves and we say, you know what, there's a lot of good in here and I have it to share. And the older, you know, a lot of the term, what is like this idea that men get wise and age, as they age they get wiser and more refined and handsome.
Right. Yeah.
And women just get fat and wrinkled and ugly. Like, who made that up?
I know, who made that up? I know. Look at Jane Fonda. Look at I mean, right, Audrey Hepburn as she aged. I mean, just like what? I mean, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. But I think we get trapped in it. I think also, here's something else that, and I think from both of our traditions, is that spirituality does not mean you don't still have those physical experiences. So I know I've met people who've defined spirituality in a way that subtracts sensuality, that the body isn't holy and wonderful and amazing. And I come from a Jewish tradition in which the body is holy and wonderful and amazing, and that is something that we don't have to leave behind, right? I told you my joke, right? I'm looking for a man with a master's degree in kissing who will also hold me in tango with me, right? And like, that's the sensuality that at this age that I'm still wanting, and that is a spiritual experience. That I don't. So yeah, I think that those dichotomies, and maybe that's one of the other things you're saying, is we have to stop one or the other, right? And that life is an and both. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. If you think about if you're just the physical, you're just going to have a physical experience.
Right.
And if you're just the spiritual, you're not in this world, you're dead. You're beyond.
Yes.
In order to combine, our goal, I think, in this lifetime is to combine both. Right? I think of, in our tradition, we have challah, which is a braided bread every Friday night.
Right.
And when I think of the braided bread, I think of like the soul and the body together mixed in with the spirit of God or of the universe. They're all intertwined. And that's really what a soul journey is that it's the intertwining of the physical, the spirit, and the soul all together to have a whole magical life.
That's lovely. That like encapsulates, I think, almost our entire conversation. We're getting really close to the end, and in fact, I'm going to take advantage and run over a couple minutes, I think. But one last chance. Like, what still inspires you? Like, actually, let me ask, because I'm looking at the clock here. What do you want people to leave the show remembering? Sort of the last thing you want them to leave the show with? Some great last.
I would say that feeling is healing. When it's as simple and as hard as that. When we feel, we heal. Number 2 would be that you are light. That no matter what has happened to you, and no matter how old you are, you can choose the light inside of you. Even if you feel like you have so many dark shadows and so many experiences and wounds and wrinkles, and all the above, you can still choose that beautiful light inside of you. And the one way to do that is to share your light, to give to others. I know we've heard this before, but every time I'm stuck, I remember that I'm here to serve something greater than just myself. So to own your light, to speak your truth, and to share it with the world, because especially now, the world needs light. We don't need more fear. We don't need any more anger. And we don't need any more divisiveness. We all need light. And if you could open your heart and be vulnerable to somebody else today, then you can change their world, and they can change somebody else's because of the way that you opened yourself to them.
That is beautiful, and that's how we're actually going to end our show today. I hope you have been inspired by the amazing Ariella Haleve. Please find her at mysoulcentered.org. I highly recommend. I've worked with her, and I cannot say enough about how wonderful she is. I'll throw in another pitch for me, that if you would like to work with me, and honestly, I could see ways you might come to me and get some information and then go do some longer term work with her, or vice versa. You can find me at alisarobin.com and on Facebook and on KUHS Denver, which is where you are, and lots of ways to find me and work with me. Thank you, Ariella. Thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Thank you for being a listener at KUHS Denver, the stream. And you have an amazing day. Please, today, listen to those last words. Share your light. Find that light inside you, and share your light. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.